Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. It's Gary Spain here, and I'm joined by Paul Tierney on the watch along for Brighton versus Aston Villa in the Premier League. It's just kicked off. There's a few minutes gone, and it's still scoreless. And Paul Nealon's going to join us in a few minutes. He's just having some technical issues. But how are you, Paul? Anyway, how are you keeping this evening?
Hi Gary, how's it going? All good, yeah. Starting to get a bit footballed out, to be honest. Would love to be playing myself or be able to go to a game rather than be sitting in watching them all. It is great that we do have it because obviously the last time we didn't. But look, it is what it is, and we keep going.
Yeah, it's we were just talking about this off air. There are just so many matches on, and you could have sat down today at 12 o'clock. Well, I did, but I wasn't sitting down all day watching TV. And first game was on at 12 o'clock. You could actually watch some of from the second division of the Bundesliga. I was watching that before Leicester and Liverpool kicked off. You could have watched Hamburg and Greuther Fürth, and then you've games all day, and not to mind the rugby thrown in as well. And tomorrow, I think there's games again. I think starting again at 12 o'clock tomorrow, you've got games all day right through to tomorrow night, and another game on Monday night, and then Europe is back on Tuesday. It's too
Yeah,
many matches for me, but it's great. I suppose it's great to have a choice. Then that whatever time, really, at the weekend, you sit down, you've got a game, and every night next week there's a game as well.
yeah, and I'm actually looking forward to the European games because I think the Premier League sometimes you get some really dull games. I mean, there's a lot of lack of quality in the league sometimes, not all the time. You know, the top teams, obviously, there's going to be a bit more quality. But even the likes of, like, say, Fulham, they always seem to draw when you watch them, and it always seems to be 0-0, and they can't get a goal and stuff like that. It's still great to be able to watch it, but there is a lack of quality sometimes. So I'm looking forward to the European games where you have the likes of Barca playing PSG, you have Atalanta playing Real Madrid, which is sure to have a ton of goals, just the way Atalanta play football in general. So yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, actually, there's one that could pull off a shock. Atalanta are a very capable team, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if they were to put Real Madrid out, which would be, well, some result if you look at I suppose, more the football history in Real Madrid. What is it, 13 times champions against a very unfancied Italian side, but they've proven in recent years that they can live with anybody. So it could be one for the shock, one for a shock result. Red Bull Leipzig or RB Leipzig against Liverpool as well on Tuesday night will be interesting. Liverpool not in the best of form at the moment, and they probably won't fancy this one either.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was watching Liverpool today, and for 70 minutes, they were a much better side in that game. I don't know what happened. Obviously, Allison had a blunder. The centre half had a blunder. It was between the both of them. Obviously, you can't pick and choose who it was overall, but they just collapsed after that, and they looked wide open. Obviously, you can point to injuries affecting them, but sure, Leicester have injuries as well. Everyone has injuries, so Liverpool just seem to have a bit more. And I mean, how long are we going to be using the excuses for injuries? That's the thing. Like, it's a long season.
Yeah, well, I think Leicester lost their very talented fullback Justin during the week, and he got an ACL, so I think that's
Yeah,
his season done, and summer next season. So he's a massive loss to them. He'd been a real find this season. But Brendan Rodgers found a way to win. As you said, Liverpool were. I was watching the game; they were much the better team for over an hour, and probably deserved to lead. And then uh, you think everything was going wrong for Leicester when you think they're getting a penalty, and then it's given right at the edge of the box. They score from the free kick, and then in the next few minutes, Liverpool just fell apart at the back. And now they're in a battle. They're probably going to actually end the weekend out of the top four places, and will have a battle now for just to get into the top four. And without doubt, well, I think their title challenge was done last weekend, but if it wasn't done last weekend, it's definitely done today.
yeah, definitely. I watched City there just before this, and they're just it's like the City from a couple of seasons ago. The run they're on at the minute. I heard a stat there. They haven't been behind since the last game against Spurs, which is back at the end of November, which is some stat considering the amount of games that have been played. Guardiola's obviously whipped them into shape, and Ilkay Gundogan is flying. He scored 11 goals since the start of December, which is unreal. for a man who you wouldn't see getting more than 5 or 6 a season normally. So, it's yeah, they look very strong, City. But I mean, with that financial firepower behind them, you'd be expecting them to be every so often running away with a league like that, especially after the disappointment of last year where they were very poor for most of the season.
Yeah, they were very poor, but well, given they've had most of this season without Sergio Aguero as well, and well, without a top class striker, it's amazing how well they've done. And as you said, I think they're on a phenomenal run. I can't remember how many wins in a row now in all competitions, with something like 16 or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
and they just keep going. And well, it looks like the title race is over. Well, maybe not. We'll see what people think. Can Man United still catch them? Can Leicester still catch them? I think they're the only two possibilities. I don't think it's likely, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
yeah,
We got one
definitely.
from.
See, the thing with the title race is you'd be expecting, like, you need City to lose 2 games, and you can't really see them losing 2 games. I mean, at the minute, like, Leicester might beat them at the King Power. I mean, Liverpool was a tough game. They hadn't won there since 2003. They absolutely demolished them last week. I mean, that's one of the tests done. Obviously, they have to play United again as well. That probably be a 0-0 draw. It usually is. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. We go to that question there anyway.
Yeah, well, Roscoe there, is Gundogan, or I'm probably pronouncing that very badly, a better De Bruyne than De Bruyne? Well, I actually didn't see today's game, Paul, so maybe I'll let you take this one.
First answer is no. Completely different players. Gundogan has stepped into De Bruyne's shoes, obviously, because he's injured for the last while. De Bruyne is an attacking midfielder, whereas Gundogan will be more of your kind of sitting centre midfielder, breaking forward and nicking a goal. He's having one of those seasons where everything he touches is turned into a goal. So, no, I don't think he's better than De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne on his day is the best player in the league by far. And yeah, that's my simple answer, is no, he's not.
Yeah, well, I mean, your typical City side, they can definitely, as you say, play together, because De Bruyne will go back into the number 10 role, I presume, and Gundogan can move further back. But yeah, lucky for City, they've got both. And another one from Daniel Deneen. Will Kelleher get a chance if Alisson's bad form continues? Well, I actually think he might. I wouldn't be surprised. Klopp does trust him, and he has given him a run. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gave him a run, and maybe just rest Alisson for a game. And well, what do you think, Paul?
Well, I think, like, he's got a couple of chances this year so far, but I mean, listen, it's still quite tough to drop Alisson. All keepers go in bad form. Lloris was terrible in the last match as well. But Spurs can't really afford to drop him, so that's the difference.
What's up, lads? Sorry I'm late.
Here's Paul. Hey, Paul, how's it going, man?
Hi, Paul.
Sorry for cutting you off there. I had a nightmare trying to get in there. So, what's the crack? What were you talking about?
We were just talking about Kelleher coming into the Liverpool side. I was just going to say, listen, there's every chance. I mean, if Klopp has to make a decision, he normally does make it, and he might change him and put him in, because Alisson's been dreadful. I mean, today I think it was both of them at fault, to be honest. It wasn't just him, but the game against City last week, yeah, pretty much all his fault. I don't know. He has to change. I mean, maybe that's the problem with Liverpool this season. They said they've had 15 different centre-half pairings this season. Maybe that's the problem, is they're changing too much. But again, I'd like to see Kelleher get a run, but whether it happens is another story.
Yeah, I'd certainly love to see Kelleher just get a couple more games, because if he does play a bit more between now and March, he has to come into serious contention to start in Belgrade, particularly if Darren Randolph doesn't get any game time. Now, for me, I still would have Darren in goal in Belgrade just because of his experience. But it's going to become a problem, and a nice problem for Stephen, if Caoimhín Kelleher is getting quite a bit of game time with Liverpool. But, well, time will tell.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you'd hope he'd get an opportunity, but again, Alisson is still Brazil's starting goalkeeper, and all goalkeepers go through a run of bad form. I mean, like we've got Leno with Arsenal. You know, I mean, he's been shocking for the last while. He's made a couple of mistakes. He's still a good goalkeeper, but I think Martinez was better, and it was wrong to sell him. You look at the likes of Chelsea, the issues they've had with goalkeepers, they still probably haven't sorted it really. Well, Tuchel coming in has helped them a lot. He's probably just shook them up and told them, sort yourselves out, lads. But I mean, there's not that many great goalkeepers. Like, there's good ones, but you know, they're not like the likes of Buffon in his prime and all that. Like, a lot of it is ball playing goalkeepers now, and I think that's a big issue. It's like they're there to save shots, not play football out from the back.
Yeah, you mentioned Martinez. We're looking at him tonight. It's still 0-0, by the way. 18 minutes gone in Brighton and Villa. Brighton have had the best of the play so far, but not too many great chances. But yeah, we get a chance to look at Martinez in goal for Villa. He's certainly been a fantastic signing for them, and they're performing well above expectations this season, and look like they could be in Europe next season, having just avoided relegation by their fingertips last season. But looking for at least the Europa League, and who knows, possibly even getting into the Champions League spots. It has to be wide open now.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call. I think Villa have been very impressive in both games against Arsenal. They've been the main two I've seen, and they beat Arsenal 3-0 and beat them 1-0 last week. Martinez was great, particularly last week. He made a couple of really good saves to keep us out. But yeah, maybe Europe is a bit like the Europa League. Yeah, maybe they could slip in, but the Champions League, I think, is a bit much. I mean, it is very tight, but the better teams will probably edge on ahead now in the next few weeks. Like, you look at City now, they're motoring on. They're gone 7 points clear. I think the likes of if Chelsea keep playing how they are, they'll motor on. They'll get into the top four. United as well. Like, do you see them losing that many games? You know, and are Villa going to go to these places and win as well? That's another issue. So, I mean, Everton are up there as well. They're fighting too. Leicester as well. They've all had good seasons. But yeah. I mean, I think Villa are just delighted to still be in the Premier League because of that Sheffield United goal that was disallowed last year, which kept them up in the end.
Yeah, that ultimately made the difference in the last day. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that was like the first game back. They forgot to put the goal line technology back on.
Yeah, well, I think he was the first game back, as you said, but it was probably one that everyone watched then. But I think part of the issue I think the issue they said was this goal decision system is takes it from so many angles, and it was just the angle of the post and the defenders that they blocked so many angles. It didn't show the ball as being over the line. But what I can't get is why they just didn't use VAR, because it was so obviously over the line when you looked at it with your naked eye or with the cameras. They could have given the goal, but well, they didn't.
Yeah,
and ultimately, could have cost Sheffield United Europe and kept Villa in the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly. Look, that's the way. I mean, if Sheffield United had gotten to Europe, it'd probably be an even more dire situation for them now as well, considering. But
I think they'd be blaming it, actually, funnily enough, because it's happened to a few clubs. Burnley spring to mind, that they do really well, get into Europe, and then the smaller squads and the number of games playing Thursday weekend, it just takes its toll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I look at Burnley as well. I mean, they had a great win today again. Like, they could be in line to be going for Europe again this season, which is mad. Sean Dyche has done a great job with them, you have to say, and a lot of Irish involvement up there too has been down the years as well. So it's good to see, but again, it's whether they can hack it. And even with this, with the situation with the pandemic, not having fans in for those games as well might have an issue financially too, if we're still in this situation come next year and Burnley do qualify for Europe.
I don't think Europe. I'm just looking at the table now. They're on 26 points in 16th. Well, actually in 15th, unless Brighton have gone ahead of them in the automatic split. They need to get to 7th spot, even assuming the FA Cup goes right, and that's 37. They're 11 points behind Everton. I don't think it's realistic, and so many teams in the mix as well. But on 26 points, looking down the table, which is what Burnley have been doing all season, They're 11 points clear of Fulham. Now, they've played a game more, and they're 14 clear of West Brom. And that, even at this stage, that looks far too big a gap for Fulham, West Brom, or Sheffield United to make up. They'd need to go on some run. And if anything, actually, Newcastle are probably the target. They're 10 points ahead of Fulham. They're fourth from bottom. And, well, I think they'll probably just have enough of a cushion. And but they might be looking over their shoulder a little bit.
Yeah, I think with Newcastle as well, there's just always a threat that they might slip in because they're so used to getting relegated. Obviously, now they've been relegated twice in the last couple of years. And not that great side, really. They've done well the last couple of weeks. They've started to battle back. I think they brought in a new coach as well. And it's evident they've started to play a bit better. They've obviously got 2 wins out of the last 3, I think it was. So, yeah, I mean, Fulham have to start winning games, though. We seen last week it's the same old with them. Sheffield United have won more games than Fulham, and Fulham won their first game long before Sheffield United did. So there's one problem with Fulham. They just can't score goals and they can't stop drawing.
Yeah, there are definitely too many draws.
Yeah.
Roscoe isn't impressed on Burnley for Europe anyway. But
well, they've done it once. Why can't they do it again? It's not like Arsenal.
Yeah.
You can with them anyway.
They didn't get into Europe in the end, though. You were quick to tell me about Everton not getting in the Champions League there last Saturday, weren't you?
Yeah, but sure, look.
Keep up, Paul.
They got into qualifying. They get money for it anyway.
No, I actually remember that wasn't that long ago. They were actually they struggled ultimately after that because of the kind of fixtures and stuff like that. Because they went into an earlier round of qualifying, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it was it. They were 7, or was it they got in because of fair play?
Yeah,
Which one was it?
play.
Yeah,
Something like that, or maybe a bigger team winning the cup or something like that. Maybe that might have been it. That were already in Europe, if that made sense.
Yeah.
Just I want to go up to something real quick. Daza just give me stick for being late. I actually was on time. It's just my camera just wasn't loading, so the image just wasn't coming up. So I was trying to communicate with the lads on WhatsApp and tell them to go live. So that's the only reason. I had everything set up, but then it just decided not to work on me. And I started the computer twice, so while I was loading it up, the lads obviously went live, and they're doing a fantastic job to actually keep me quiet till now. So fair play. At least I know if that never happens to me, I know these two can keep the show on the road. So fair play to them. Everyone give throw a like in there for the lads who kept the show running.
This was actually our efforts at a coup, but unfortunately sabotaging Paul's laptop didn't work. But we'll have another go.
Well, I can go if you want, lads. There's no problem. But tell me this, right? The elephant in the room, the real elephant in the room. Roy Keane is on social media. What is going on? What is the world coming to? The one person you think it would never, ever be on Instagram. I don't think he's going to come on Twitter. Right? He's gone onto Instagram. It's official.
He's on Twitter. He's on Twitter.
No, well, I don't think that's a real one.
Is that not him?
I don't think so. There's no blue tick anyway.
The Instagram one's verified, but I think what it is he has somebody, doing a forum, tweeting or putting up pictures and stuff for him, might be his daughter or something like that, because he would get easily 1 million followers. I'm going to check his Instagram now and see how many followers he was at, because last time I checked he was at 800 and something. But I think he would be the type of person that could easily get like 1 million followers, and the amount of money he could make out of just like being an influencer or whatever, not like going around putting out makeup or anything like that, but you know what I mean. Definitely brands would be targeting him as a person that they could make money from, 100%. So just let me 2 secs there. It's so funny seeing him. He's at 927,000 followers already, so he's well on his way to 1 million. But yeah, what was it? I think it's because he saw your video, Paul. Although you must be talking about the video me and you did, Gary, there a while back, was it? The asking about being a manager.
Okay. He's coming on to get his revenge, is it? Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll get him on. I've actually spent the day messaging people to come on the show for future guests on the podcast in a few weeks. So hopefully with the powers of some other internationals, they can help me out. So I'm just waiting on a couple of texts back. But hopefully we'll have some good people. Not Roy Keane, but Irish internationals nonetheless. But yeah, Roy Keane on social media. Gary, first of all, did you ever think you'd see him on there?
No, I didn't, and I was a bit surprised. I must have a good look at that Twitter account I followed now, because I saw it popped up on my feed. But yeah, no, I'm totally surprised. I must actually go on Instagram and have a look. I don't go on that too often, I must admit. But yeah, I'm absolutely shocked. As you say, it may be somebody else doing it for him. I don't think he's someone who needs the money, so he's probably gone on it for some other reasons. And I don't think he's the kind of person who wants to be an influencer or anything like that. But there's one thing about Roy: he's never boring, and so I can see why everybody is going to want to follow him, because he'll certainly be entertaining. I love him on Sky. I think he's a great pundit and very entertaining. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he says.
Yeah, Paul, what did you think when you seen it? Because you're obviously part of the real Instagram kind of generation, I would say. So when you saw him, a very old school person, someone who you just wouldn't think would be on it, what were your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, I was in work last night and I came on and you were obviously talking about it in the group chat. I was shocked. I mean, the amount of stick he's given several players for promoting themselves via Instagram. Like, Instagram in particular is such a random one for me, I think. I don't think we ever expected it. Good to see, though. I mean, and I like the first post as well, obviously, with his dogs. We all know how much he loves his dogs as well. So, yeah, like, I mean, it's mad, but it's been a mad year and a half or so now, so nearly 2 years now. So, you know,
I suppose it was kind of like the tip of the iceberg, wasn't it?
Yeah. Hopefully it gets better now. With Roy Keane on Instagram, it can only get better.
Do you think that there'll be a bit of a spat now between him and John Walters online?
Potentially. I mean, it was shaping up. Obviously, John Walters came out today and spoke about, obviously, the PFA thing, and then he spoke about, obviously, the disputes he's had with Roy Keane as well in the past. So maybe it will, but it's not what we want to see, really. 2 ex-Irish internationals, ex-Irish coach as well, fighting again. You know, it's probably not what we really need at the moment. But potentially, potentially.
It could be funny to get like a white collar boxing thing between them two going or something. Would be quite entertaining, but I doubt it will ever happen. But just gonna run through some comments there quickly. Signings of the season so far. Did you cover that one already, or are we okay to talk about it?
We haven't. We just spoke about. I just mentioned Martinez going from us and how I was disappointed with it.
Okay, I'll just change the layout just so it's not covering your face there, Paul. So he says the signing of the season so far, lads: Diaz, Martinez, Rodriguez. Is he talking about James, as in Rodriguez? Because I actually really don't think he's been the signing of the season.
Maybe not now. He certainly impressed earlier in the season. He looked like an amazing signing for Everton. Yeah, probably gone off the boil a bit, I agree, but
it's not that. It's just people speak about Pogba and these types of players as being luxury players. James Rodriguez is the biggest luxury player I've ever seen, and look what he makes up for going forward. It shows why he doesn't have to come back and defend. But when we're up against a team, we're going to be physical. And, coming at us, he's just not the type of person you want in the team. So for that reason, I just wouldn't have him anywhere near signing of the season. I actually think Decore has been a better signing, if I'm being honest. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. And James, in terms of his goals and everything, yes, he is world class. He's probably one of very few world class players I've seen at Everton. But his overall work rate is what does it for me. Now, let's not forget, James Rodriguez was signed on a free transfer. No one really knew that up until recently, but he was signed for free. So that just shows the pulling power of Ancelotti. But for me, and I actually think Alan would probably be right up there too if he hadn't been injured. But Decore has just been, he's such a difference. If you watched Everton last season and their midfield was such a big black hole, that's why Alan and Decore came in there. He's just been absolutely brilliant, Decore, and he's adding goals to his games now, So I think Decore has been absolutely excellent. Now I wouldn't say he's signed in the season. Sorry, it's a good question actually. Signed in the season, Diaz, you would have to say he is right up there, considering how much he's actually made John Stones look even better. And you go back and you look at Van Dijk last season and how much he made the players around him look better, no matter who was in beside him. Diaz kind of has that similar effect, you know. So I would say he's up there. I would have said Jota as well if maybe he hadn't gotten injured. He was starting off really well at Liverpool as well. So there's a few. I'm sure you will give yours, and then some more might come back to me as you give yours. So I don't know, Gary, if you want to give yours, maybe.
Yeah, well, it's not the season obviously, but the signing of 2020 was definitely Bruno Fernandes. I think he made a phenomenal impact at Manchester United, and when he came for the second half of last season, he's carried it on this season. He's been absolutely superb. This season, Ollie Watkins actually was going to come to him. He's been a fine shout. Someone who stepped up from the Championship has. He's done really well, and Martinez, who was mentioned as well. I think Arsenal made a mistake, as Paul had alluded to earlier on, and he's been superb for Villa. And but I would actually go with Diaz, because it had been a huge problem position for Manchester City, the centre back. And not only has he stepped in as a young player, I think he's only 22, 23, and looks to the manner born, he's also improved John Stones beside him. John Stones looks a far better player playing beside Diaz. And I think they're instrumental in City's recent form and their run, that in some ways the title race seems almost over. And suddenly you're thinking, I wonder now, can they finally win the Champions League as well? If they can just get Aguero back fit, or no, they're still scoring goals, but if they just don't seem to have a top quality striker. So they're the ones I'm kind of thinking. And I'll say one signing that I thought could have been the signing of the season that's turned out to be an incredible flop, and that's Gareth Bale for Tottenham. Somebody who's coming back, has such a talent, such a reputation. And he looked like the final piece of the jigsaw. And a few months ago, you're thinking, is it realistic? Could Tottenham finally win? I mean, Tottenham, none of us were alive. I mean, I know I'm a good bit older than you guys, but none of us were alive the last time Tottenham won the league. And it didn't seem so ridiculous a few months ago. And now, I mean, where are they now? Down 8th, mid-table. It seems even laughable that some of us were talking or even mentioning. I know Miguel Delaney actually tipped them to win the league a couple of months ago, and he's obviously gone very quiet on that. But it seems even laughable now that that anyone would seriously consider Tottenham to be in a title race. But Gareth Bale, I know Paul's having a good chuckle on this. And
keep talking there, Gary. Keep talking.
No sympathy whatsoever for Tottenham. But Gareth Bale did seem to be...
That's Paul Tierney, by the way, not me. I don't care.
Yeah. Gareth Bale did seem to be possibly the missing piece in the jigsaw. He was coming back. Wales, he was going to have some season and set it up for Wales in the Euros as well. Now, he may still star in the Euros, but what a disappointment he's been in the Premier League. And I think the people who were critical of Real Madrid are suddenly going very quiet on this. And anyway, so going back to the original question, I would have to go with Diaz as my signing of the season, just because the difference he's made to City's back four, and even the way John Stones is playing beside him as well.
Paul, you'll have to give us your selection of who you might have.
Well, I think obviously it wasn't a signing for this season, but it was 2020 as well. Thomas Souček at West Ham, absolutely brilliant. Last one,
what a shout!
Absolute lump of a footballer, but gets goals pretty much every week, every second week. And I mean, look at West Ham are flying at the minute. They're doing fantastic. Obviously, went out of the cup the other night as well, and I think Liverpool the only team that beat them in the league as well, which is, I mean, obviously in Liverpool's form now as well, it's probably a bit of a shock too. The three that Ross has mentioned there is obviously they're probably the three main ones, but I think Diaz has to be the standout, and I'll have to go along with it as well. The fact that you're bringing John Stones up as a good defender along with yourself as well says a lot about you, because John Stones is not that good a defender. So, I mean, it's some work being done by Diaz as well as being a top defender himself. So, I'd have to agree with Diaz as well. Martinez is a close second, though. I mean, it's not as significant as, say, when Liverpool brought in Alisson at first. Obviously, we're saying that now after his disaster in the last couple of games. But you look at the difference. Villa having a decent goalkeeper and a decent back line, they're up in the top half, and that's the difference a lot of the time.
Just as you were speaking, Paul, another magnificent save from Martinez, one-handed, tipped it over the bar, and it's still 0-0 here, by the way, 38 minutes gone, and Brighton very much on top, but Martinez keeping Villa in it.
Sickens me every time he makes a save, lads. Sickens me every time. Even this season, he won the Charity Shield and the penalty shootout, making it.
And he's just made another one, a header. I think it's Dan Byrne with a header, and looked like he was just going inside the far post, and he gets across.
Gary, you were on top of my list there a couple of seconds ago talking about Spurs. You've gone right back down now.
Well, Leno is still a fine keeper, actually. That's probably the problem for Arsenal. But then you look at the way that Man United have managed to keep Henderson, who was superb last season for Sheffield United, and possibly one of the reasons that maybe not. Maybe that's a bit unfair. I was going to say one of the reasons they're not doing so well this season, but they're actually decent enough at the back, and I think Ramsdale's actually pretty decent. I know he's a bit controversial as a goalkeeper, but Man United have managed to keep on to Henderson and De Gea. So maybe Arsenal could have made more of an effort to keep Martinez and Leno and have the competition in goal. But I think Leno is still a fine keeper.
I think the problem. I think the problem with Arsenal is just like they just make too many of these silly mistakes constantly. It's like letting these players go. Listen, if a player wants to go, but you're selling them to Aston Villa. He should want to stay at Arsenal. Arsenal are a bigger club than Aston Villa. Maybe it could be argued, Villa have won a European trophy, Arsenal haven't. But look, listen, it's obviously been the right decision for them, but Arsenal haven't done enough there, and that's the problem. And it's happened so many times in the last 15 years or so, and it just has to stop, and that's the main reason that they're down where they are.
I'll just say it, Paul, in case I know other people jump in. Arsenal have won European trophies. They just haven't won the European Cup Champions League, which, of course, Villa did win with Peter Witt. That I can certainly remember watching that final on TV long before you were even born, lads. But, it's. I certainly agree. Arsenal are a far bigger club than Villa, even allowing for that European Cup win. But I think part of the issue may have been Martinez wanted to play every week. And obviously, you go to a club like Villa, you play every single week. You stay at Arsenal, you're fighting for your place with a top-class goalie like Leno. So it makes it more difficult. But, it's easy to look back in hindsight. But, it's probably one that Arsenal are regretting. Even though I still think Leno's a fine keeper. He's made the odd mistake, but... still looks a fine keeper to me, so it's not the end of the world for Arsenal.
Yeah, I know. There's other issues at Arsenal rather than just that, but I just think it could have been handled a little bit better, and I think he deserved the chance to be first choice goalkeeper for a couple of months because he was very, very good throughout the end of last season and was the goalkeeper for the cup as well. So that and the Charity Shield this year as well. So. I don't know. It's just a bit of a sore one. But look, there's been plenty of them in the last 15 years.
Can you blame him for leaving though, Paul? I mean, he was there 10 years, and he only really got a look in just the end of last season after wasn't it Maupay injured Leno, and then he was in then for pretty much the rest of the season.
Oh no, I don't blame him. Like I blame the club. Like it's the club's fault ultimately. Like it's. Like, they didn't do enough. They obviously didn't convince him he was going to get enough game time. That's his choice, and fair play to him. He's made the right decision. You said he's been there for a while. He has been there for a while.
Is it 10 years?
Long moves. I remember him playing against Reading in that 7-5 that time, and that was 2012, so that's 9 years. So, you know what I mean? He's been there.
I thought it was 10 years, you see, but, like, when I watched him, he won the FA Cup and he was in tears and all. I was delighted for him for winning the FA Cup, and I was probably delighted for you at the time as well. Probably wouldn't be delighted with you anymore because the way you've been carrying on there the last week. But no, all joking aside, I think I like him. He comes across as a really good guy. He's done really good for Villa. But the thing I don't get about it is why did Arsenal have had Chesney? They've had I suppose Almunia was crap. Then they had, who else did they have? Fabianski wasn't good for Arsenal, but is a good keeper. Seems to struggle with bigger teams. And obviously through the years he was there, Arsenal were quite big. Finishing top 4 regularly and in the topic for title race, maybe not finishing in the title race like they would have wanted to. But they've always had quite decent keepers. But what struck me is if he was there that long, why wasn't he getting games? And the fact that he came in last season, looked like a really good goalkeeper. I think he got into the Argentina squad on form as well for his performances for Arsenal. And then he goes to Villa, and as Gary had said earlier, like he's probably up there for signing of the season.
Yeah, it's a tough one to take. I mean, I think the difference with him and Fabianski was, I think it was like in both the league and the cup rather than just one. I think Fabianski always kind of came in when there was an injury, and he always played in the cup as well. And I remember the 2014 cup, he actually made a load of saves in the penalty shootout against Wigan in the semi-final, which is, again, it's another good one. But I think Fabianski went away, done exactly what Martinez done, went to Swansea, was brilliant with Swansea, and now he's been very good with West Ham. Obviously, Darren Randolph can't get a look in, which is unfortunate for us, but that's just the way. It's a sore one, but look, we'll have to get over it. As Gary said, Leno is still a good goalkeeper. I don't think he's as good a goalkeeper as this guy, but look, we keep going.
Just on Irish, I suppose, things from today. Nathan Collins looks like he's out with a bad injury now. I think it's his metatarsal, and it looked like he may have been given an opportunity maybe to be called up because he was just playing very well, and that looks like it's out the window at the moment, because I think Gary had said it was 6 weeks from today we're playing that game against, or 6 weeks till
6
the game
weeks from 6 weeks from last Wednesday. So yeah, it's 5.5 weeks. And yeah, he was stretchered off today, and I saw on Twitter they mentioned that it looked like a metatarsal. So I don't think he'll be back. Normally, I'm just trying to remember how long we had some famous metatarsals. I think it was David Beckham made it famous originally, and Wayne Rooney subsequent to that. Yeah, so I think it can easily be 6, 8, 10 weeks. So I think even if he was just to come back in time, he probably wouldn't make the squad now for Belgrade. But what a shame for him, because he was playing so well and playing regularly every week. And I'll just make a point about goalkeepers, actually, which I think it might be relevant to Martinez as well, and maybe for our own young goalkeepers, is that we're talking about Nathan Collins, who's developing so quickly and so young as a centre half, which is often a position you really don't come into your own till 23 or 24. I think goalkeeping is another position like that, even though we've got 2 really good goalkeepers coming through in Gavin Bazunu and in Caoimhín Kelleher, obviously, who are obviously proving me wrong on that fact that goalkeepers can take a while to develop. But I think that may have been the case with Martinez. He just took a few years to come through, and maybe that's why he wasn't, even when he had such a standout season last season when he came in for the injured Leno, that maybe Arsenal just didn't have enough faith in him. But I think he's proving everything, and not just tonight, but in general, what a season he's had. But back to Nathan Collins. Yeah, huge blow for the young lad, and well, I suppose he's still quite young, and he I'm sure he'll come back from this. In some ways, maybe it's a good thing if it's only a metatarsal. When I heard initially he was stretchered off today, I was kind of thinking the worst and saying, is it an ACL or something? People were saying it looked really bad. But so metatarsal look not ideal, but it is something that will fix itself very quickly. And Daz has just mentioned Mark Travers. Good point. Yeah, he's still coming through, and he's another keeper that will probably need some game time. Has come in and really impressed in certain games, and then maybe looked not so good in others. But probably the classic example of someone who's still young and is still getting better, and will probably be a better keeper in a couple of years.
Yeah, I just have the 42.ie open up here. It says, just as a dismal afternoon for Stoke City was compounded by an injury to their promising Irish defender Nathan Collins. The 19-year-old was stretchered off in the closing stages of his side's 4-1 defeat to Norwich City in the Championship. Collins was hurt by an awkward landing, with the Stoke Sentinel reporting that he looked in real pain as he received treatment. In his post-match press conference, Stoke manager Michael O'Neill said that the Republic of Ireland under-21 international appeared to damage a metatarsal bone in his foot, but he added it's too early to get a clear picture on the injury. Collins has been a regular fixture in the Stoke team this season, making 27 appearances and not missing a minute of action in the Championship since November. However, he looks set to face a spell on the sidelines as a result of the incident in a game that dented the promotion hopes of the 10th place Potters. Collins has attracted Premier League interest recently, with Stoke reportedly rejecting a bid from Burnley during the transfer window. The former Kildare native is also sure to have put him in Stephen Kenny's thoughts ahead of Ireland's World Cup qualification campaign against Serbia on the 24th of March. That was from Paul Dollery of the 42.ie. So yeah, as you said, I think Gary, it's maybe too early to tell how long he's going to be, but he'll most definitely be ruled out of any sort of international things for the next while anyway, until after March at the very least, you know.
Yeah, normally I think it can be up to 3 months for a metatarsal. So yeah, hopefully he'll be back for the end of the season. And it is a good point that the loss to Norwich, you know, good to see Adam Ida come off the bench, by the way, but the loss to Norwich does really dent their hopes for promotion. Stoke haven't been on a great run, and they've fallen well off the playoff places at the moment, and it's going to be tough for them to come back.
Well, I think you're talking there about just coming back. I think it'll be key, because if he comes back and plays himself back into form, he could be on the move then in the summer with Burnley, and I know Arsenal were linked with them as well. They were kind of hoping that he'd stay at Stoke for another year anyway, so they could come sniffing for him in the summer. Paul, since you're an Arsenal fan, I might as well ask you actually. I think it would make more sense. Nathan Collins to Arsenal, could you see that be a runner, and you know, would he get in straight away, or what way would it work? Because to me, it looks like the Arsenal defence is all over the place. And would he be someone that maybe Arteta would trust in the youth and bring him through? Because I know he's done it with attacking players.
Yeah, well, I think maybe in a couple of years, obviously they were disappointed with the whole Saliba situation. Obviously Arteta didn't fancy him in the end after him coming in. He's gone back to France now, and he's come out and said that Arteta only gave him 2.5 games in pre-season friendlies, which, I mean, that's never enough really, you know. Obviously David Luiz, you never know what you're going to get really with him. The last red card he got, I think the more you look at it, it was probably a bit harsh, but look, it was a red card and that's what happened. I think Rob Holding will be there for a while as long as he stays injury free. I actually think he's quite a good defender, and he's not as controversial as the rest of them. He doesn't throw in mistakes, whatever. So he could be a good addition. Maybe if they brought him in and sent him back out on loan for a couple of years. But again, this injury is, if it's as bad as you've reported, I mean, it could be a while. Arsenal.
I didn't report it now. It's
yeah. As you've said. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Then Arsenal might go away from it. Then you don't know. You don't know what the clubs are thinking, and that's unfortunate for him. He's been very impressive for Stoke. I think there's not much level difference between the Championship and where Arsenal are in the Premier League. So, I mean, I think it could be worth a punt. But again, obviously, this injury is going to have a massive effect on it.
I think he's going to be a fabulous player. I watch him, the size of him and stuff like that. He's one of those players that you just wouldn't like to come up against whatsoever as an attacker. He could play out from the back as well if needed. And, you know, Stephen Kenny's obviously a massive fan of his. Michael O'Neill seems to be a massive fan of his. And let's not forget, he was made captain at the age of 18 last year. So, I mean, it's just great to see a lot of Irish players kind of making that breakthrough. I know Jason Knight had his birthday today. He turned 20. He had a good game with Derby. They got a win over Middlesbrough, a 2-1 win. Do you know what I like about him? He got a yellow card in the 90th minute for time wasting, and that's my type of person. That's the type of person we need in our team. A snide.
Yeah, I saw your tweet on that. Yeah,
that's a real Championship player. That is a real Championship. You know, get the result. That's it. Let's get up to the next division.
Crucial win for Derby, because they still are in a big relegation battle, but that gives them a small little bit of breathing space, and a good win over Middlesbrough. I'm just looking at the table. Stoke are 7 points off the playoffs now, and they were down in 10th position, so it's 4 places off Bournemouth. And now I know it's the championship, and put 2 or 3 wins together on the table can look very different. But given Stoke were in the playoff places before Christmas and look like they might even be challenging for the top 2, they've been on pretty poor run and dropping down the table. So it's not a good sign and not a good look. But so they'll need to turn it around very quickly. Of course, the target in the championship is Shane Long's Bournemouth. Didn't manage to get off the mark today, but they're still just hanging on in there in the playoff places. Again, a team that's probably looked like they were set for automatic promotion a few weeks ago and suddenly down in 6th. So maybe there's still hope for Stoke, but it'd be nice to see Bournemouth come back up as well.
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to a couple of people in the comments who are always on, no matter what. Every time we're on, they're always on. So Daza, Avonmore, Fresh Milk, Ross is always on Facebook. Big shout out to you lads for always coming on and getting comments in, because we love that, and obviously it keeps up our engagement and a bit of crack with us as well. So, you know, fair play to you guys. Daza asked a question earlier on that I kind of skipped over by mistake. He said, does the panel think Gareth Southgate will poach Joe Hodge? Personally, I don't think so. Paul Tierney, your thoughts?
Well, I don't think he's going to be looking at him playing for Derry, unfortunately. I just think, like, that's unfortunate, but it's the way. I don't think so. Maybe if he started playing for the likes of, like, in the lower level of the Premier League, maybe Championship, and he was doing well, maybe then he'd start looking at it. But I don't think he'll be coming over to look at him playing for Derry, or, you know, obviously he's still very young as well. We don't know. Hopefully not, anyway, because he's a very talented player.
Yeah, Gaz?
Well, I'd be hoping that even if he tried, that Joe Hodge would turn him down. Having said that, yeah, look, Joe Hodge is still a very young player, so it's more likely that the England under-21 manager, whose name escapes me at the moment, would be looking to possibly... Is it Eddie Boothroyd still?
No, it could be. It could be.
Is it?
I can't remember.
Okay, I can't remember.
I don't focus on them, you know.
Okay, whoever it is. But again, I don't think they're going to be looking at him playing for Derry, which is probably an advantage for us as well. Obviously, he can still switch until he plays competitively for the senior team, which is probably a bit of a way off yet. But unfortunately for the English-born players in our squad, or even in some cases at West Ham, the Irish-born players in our squad, there can be a concern that they could switch to England. Couldn't see what you're holding up. It is Boothroyd, is it? Yeah. Okay. Well, hands off. So, yeah. I actually, of all the players in that under-17 team, Joe Hodge is the one just sitting in front of the back four who really, really impressed me and really looks like he could be one for the future. Now, obviously, at that age, we talked about it already, Paul, there's still quite a bit of development and developing to be done, but he certainly has a great chance of making it right to the top. And we talked already, was it Scholar of the Year at Manchester City, etc. This is going to be his first taste in men's football, and it's going to be a real test for him in Derry, but I think he will learn a lot, and I hope he gets a chance to play quite a bit for them. I'm certainly looking forward to watching him. And yeah, look, I'm sure he'll be involved in Jim Crawford's under-21 squads, and we can just take from there and see how it goes.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think Paul had said it there. You know, I don't think Gareth Southgate will be watching him in Derry, but I know for a fact that Stephen Kenny would be. So, you know, I think that's an advantage in itself, and the fact that Jim Crawford and Stephen Kenny are quite close. If he gets called up to the under-21s, I'm sure he'll be talking with Stephen. They have monthly meetings talking about players and stuff like that. So look, if it all goes well, happy days. As we said on the video we did the last day, which you can check out on our YouTube channel. It's got to take time for him to develop. It's a 6-month loan deal. So, you know, let's see how the 6 months goes, and maybe it gets extended, maybe it doesn't, maybe it goes back, but at least he has a taste of what it's like playing the League of Ireland, and, you know, he gets that kind of more of an Irish connection that he already has right now anyway, because I think he's playing through his grandmother. So yeah, look, I think everybody is hoping that he'll stay with us for the foreseeable future and beyond, and everyone's hoping that he's going to be one of the next stars, maybe the next Phil Foden, but obviously playing for Ireland, which would be brilliant because, you know, if you look through our players, we don't have that many marquee players. I know, look, Gavin Bazoona's at Man City and he's coming through there as well. He's gone out on loan. You look at Kelleher as well. He's kind of gone through a couple of loans and now made himself the number 2 there. So we do have those 2 players, but they're not established players at the top clubs. Like even Matt Doherty's gone to Spurs and he's struggled, and even Spurs are struggling now, and he still can't get a start really in the team when in their bigger games. Tonight, I didn't see him come on the pitch, I don't think. So that for me is a little bit worrying that Mourinho doesn't seem to fancy him. So the only player that's really playing at I suppose, a top club, and you probably won't consider him a top club, I would, Everton, Coleman again, but he's not really playing. So if you look at the league table, I mean, so yeah, it would be nice to have a player who in the next couple of years is playing with a top club in, say, Man City and is playing for Ireland, because over the last 10 years, Coleman's probably been the most consistent, highest rated player we probably have, and then Robbie Keane probably before that, but he had gone to, you know, the MLS at that stage. So it would be nice to have someone like Joe Hodge coming through. We obviously have players coming through championship clubs who could then go on to big clubs. I'm not ruling that out. I still think Arsenal are a top club, despite what anybody wants to say. And I think if Nathan Collins went to Arsenal, I'd be really happy with that. I think if Jason Knight went somewhere, anywhere between the 1st and 7th place club, I'd be happy. Whether that's, I don't know. You know, I'd love to see him at maybe like a Leeds or something like that. I think he'd be brilliant at Leeds. I think the Leeds fans would love him as well. And then you got Darragh O'Shea. I definitely think he could go on to bigger things in the future. I think because of his versatility and stuff like that, I think he's got a real future in the game. He's got a real good football brain and, you know, comfortable at left back, right back and both centre back positions. Probably could play in a sitting midfielder role as well because he's that comfortable on the ball. So we do have a lot of those players coming through as well. We have the only issue I may have is probably the striker options. Although we have good players coming through, they're maybe not hitting the net as much as we probably want. And I'm not heaping pressure on any of them. But like you look at Aaron can't get in the starting lineup with Brighton at the moment. He goes through a little bit of a phase where he does well, gets injured, and then comes back, and he's kind of at that stage now at the moment. I know he missed a chance there a couple of weeks ago, went off social media, he's kind of gone a little bit quiet. He's back on social media now. But yeah, I think we do have good options there, but I would like to see maybe our strikers start scoring a little bit more, because if you're looking around the strikers, the only one who's really scoring goals at this moment in time that's Irish, Paddy Madden in League One with Fleetwood.
James Collins getting a few in the championship.
Yeah, James Collins probably be our most in form in terms of realistic players, because I don't think Paddy Madden will get called up. But then after that, they kind of dry up a little bit. Sean Maguire hasn't really done a lot in a while. I don't know what's going on with him, when he's injured or whatever. I just haven't seen him at all. And then you're kind of looking around the strikers, and you just it kind of worries me a little bit. Not that we've ever really been blessed with strikers that much anyway, but kind of we have had a good few that have been very good, but never to the level of Robbie Keane. I don't think we'll ever see someone to the level of Robbie Keane again. But I just hope that maybe Troy, Adam Ida, these lads can start getting, you know, proper runs in the team and stuff like that. It's early days at Ipswich for Troy, I know that, and I still think he's got a couple of years before he'll start hitting real form, and I hope that he goes on to be the player that everyone wants him to be. But I actually think someone's going to surprise us. I think someone's going to come out of the kind of out of nowhere and just become a really good player. Maybe like a Jason Knight or something like that. Again, Jason Malumbi's not really getting that much of a look in now at Preston. He came on for a token couple of minutes last night as well. I don't know whether it's because they were playing during the week or something like that. But yeah, that doesn't make me.
No, that wasn't good. Wasn't good to see. Although I was glad to see some of the Preston fans were complaining about him not starting. It's not just strikers, Paul. I think it's creative or attacking midfielders or people who are going to create chances. And I'm thinking of Wes.
Conor Howard, by the way, should be played top of the pitch. He spoke. I don't know if he's,
maybe. Yeah,
I'll come back to it, Gary. I'll let you say.
You come back to
Sorry,
it. No, because I think Conor Hourihane is having a fantastic time with Swansea and everything. But I'm thinking more in the mold of a Wes Hoolahan or someone like that. And I was really reminded today of one of our great creative players, and who knows, maybe an outside chance, but I think it's done, is Aidan McGeady, who created 4 goals. It was Charlie White got 4 goals for Sunderland, but Aidan McGeady got all 4 assists, I think 4 crosses and 4 headers. And
I think it was what a talented corners too, no?
Yeah, but what a talent he was, but someone, I think someone in the Wes Hoolahan, Aidan McGeady role, we probably need coming through as well as another Robbie Keane. And Conor Hourihane's a shout, and I think Conor Hourihane is playing himself into our team for the Serbia match. But he's not the type of player I'm thinking that's going to really create, maybe ideal for set pieces, but not the real creative player in the Wes Hoolahan or Aidan McGeady mould. And that's what I'd like to see, someone like that coming through. Is there a young Wes Hoolahan out there, and or a young Robbie Keane? I mean, I think we certainly had high hopes that the likes of Troy Parrott or Adam Ida could become the next Robbie Keane, but there's a long way to go. Yeah, you never know. He certainly has all the attributes. Obviously, very young and still has a lot of developing to do. But who knows?
Yeah, just going back to, I just think that Hourihane is a very good shout in terms of being played further up the pitch. I've never seen him further up the pitch for Ireland. I've only ever seen him playing as a traditional kind of, I would say, number 6 midfielder. Whereas he spoke on off the ball. I don't know if you've seen the interview, and he was speaking about not sitting around. You know, he wants to play football. He wants to make sure he's in the Ireland team. But as well as that, the main factor was he was going to be played further forward in a position where obviously he would get more chances to create assists and goals. Because in my opinion, for Ireland, I know we don't score anyway, but he doesn't seem to get much assists or goals because he always seems to be quite deep. So I would like to now see him being played as our furthest midfielder up. I know Hendrick gets that job, but Hendrick, he hasn't really done anything with the opportunity that he's been given, and it's not like he's played 1 or 2 games. He's had a whole host of games. I think maybe a spell out of the Ireland team might do Jeff some good, so maybe he can come in off the bench and maybe then make an impact. I think that might suit him a little bit more, but obviously that's something that we'll probably discuss closer to the time. But I think having Hourihane pushed up and seeing how he does, what's the harm in it? I mean, he's tried everybody else there. I think he could stick Robbie Brady out on the right side. I think that's where he's been playing a lot for Burnley. I know he came back off the bench today. I think he might have got a little bit of a knock recently, but he'd been starting a lot of games and stuff like that. He's actually linked with Celtic at the moment. So the Scottish Daily Record are saying that he could go on a pre-contract to Celtic, but we'll discuss that another time. But I just think that if we were talking about maybe having one of them in the team, but I think if you're going off current form, you probably have to have the 2 of them in.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think as you've said there, it could work well. Hourihane in front of maybe Knight and Malumbi. I think they're both very lively midfielders, and they do a great job in there, winning the ball back, setting stuff up for others, and even nicking goals every so often.
But that's the way Swansea play ball. They have the 6 and they have 2 8s, and he's the furthest forward of the 8. So you could have Knight as the 8, Malumbi as the 6, and Hourihane as the other 8, maybe kind of pushing on then a little bit, you know what I mean? But just going back to Gary's point about maybe a creative player, Conor Ronan could be that player depending on how his development keeps going. He's doing well with Grasshopper Zurich, but I think that's the Swiss second tier. So
yeah, well, they're top. They're traditionally one of the bigger clubs, but they are top of the second tier, and probably will be back in the first tier. But
I don't at a higher level, you know, see how he does, because he's been brilliant at under 21 level. He's done well with Grasshopper. So yeah, I'm not ruling out. I just hope he goes on, because I remember a couple of games he came on for the under 21s and he turned the game. Most notably the Sweden game.
Yeah, I think Conor has actually probably moved back into the 6th role for Ireland, because he had started off more as an 8, and I think the point was, Conor Hourihane, that he had. We kind of played with James McCarthy or Glenn Whelan as the 6, and maybe Jeff and Conor as the 2 8s. We haven't really had, maybe Robbie Brady when he's been in midfield as opposed to play would be more of a 10 or more in the 10 role. But I don't see Jason Malumbi playing as a 6 in Belgrade.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're probably going to say it, Gary.
Well, I was going to say I was actually going to say James McCarthy, right, first of all. But certainly it will be James McCarthy or Josh Cullen. They're much more suited to the role, and particularly in a game like Serbia away, you're going to need somebody who's used to playing in the 6 role. So if it's not going to be Connor, it will be, I think, James McCarthy if fit and playing regularly. Or if not, maybe Josh Cullen is the shout because he's the more natural 6. Jason Malumbi, Jason Knight, much more suited to be an 8, possibly even the 10 behind the striker, particularly Jason Knight there, possibly even Alan Brown, who's playing really well for Preston at the moment as well. So there are options there, and but I still think we're crying out. I don't think Connor is the answer as a number 10. We're just crying out for a Wes Hoolahan or an Aidan McGeady or somebody like that.
Never said number 10.
So
I said number 8, but playing higher up.
Yeah.
So we would still be.
I think
box to box.
That's where he. Well, yeah, that's where he really started out more so than when Glenn Whelan was playing as the 6. I think Connor and Jeff were more or less playing as 2 8s, as someone said there. You know?
Yeah, just I actually, when you were talking about players and stuff like that, I completely forgot about Josh Cullen, and I think that Republic of Ireland tracker on Twitter, it's a good Twitter account if you're on Twitter, and he was saying that a lot of the games that Cullen has to be the voice of and battling in games is when he's at his absolute best. So a game like Serbia could be the making of him. And if he comes in and has a good game there, if James McCarthy's not fit, Harry Arthur's not fit, then yeah, I definitely think that he should be without a doubt the one that starts. He's playing for Anderlecht. Vincent Kompany seems to really, really like him. When he's fit, he's in there. I 100% would have a midfield 3 right now. If I was playing tomorrow and I was Stephen Kenny and I was picking a midfield, I would have Josh Cullen, Jason Knight and Conor Howard as my midfield 3. And people might say, oh, it's not very strong midfield, but I think if you're going on form, I think it is. So that would probably be my midfield. Gun to my head, if I had to pick a team or playing tomorrow, that would be my midfield 3.
Yeah, I'd probably go for Belgrade. I'd probably go for James McCarthy if he's fit and available, just for that bit of experience, the cool head. Now, I'll contradict myself a little bit on that because you mentioned Harry Arthur. I would not play Harry Arthur in the 6 role in Belgrade, despite him having a lot more experience than Josh Cullen. I'm just not sure he's disciplined enough for the 6, and I haven't been convinced by him in the 6 role. So I would have... I mean, if James McCarthy isn't available, I think Josh Cullen is probably the player who's going to make that role his own in the years to come. So is it a risk in Belgrade? Maybe, but Stephen is someone who wants to go with the young players. And I was just reading Sean's comment there. Yeah, it's probably a good shout. And I mean, it's hard to argue against Josh Cullen. I'm just thinking Serbia away in Belgrade, first game up, to such a crucial role to be throwing a young player in. It's a big ask.
He's not young though, Gary. He's 24 now.
Yeah, but he's still... He hasn't had a huge amount of first team experience, I suppose. So... he hasn't. I don't know how many first team games he's played, but he's more in the numbers of the likes of Jason Knight, etc. Who's 3 or 4 years younger than him, and so I think away from home in Belgrade, he may well be the number 6 in Belgrade, particularly because I know James has had a horrible time with injuries in the last couple of years, the last 5 years really now, and. But I just certainly I would have Josh Cullen at home to Luxembourg in the 6 role, and maybe he'd take the role from there. But if James McCarthy was available, he'd probably be my number 6 in Belgrade.
Yeah, no, I get your logic, but I just think that you're kind of keep on pushing that leave him he's young type of thing to Josh Cullen at 24 now. I think it's the ideal time to put him in. I'm noticing that there's 38 people online there and there's only 14 likes. Sort it out, guys. Hit the like button, please. It helps the channel grow. Paul, what are your thoughts on that position, the sixth position for Ireland? Josh Cullen, Conor Howard, James McCarthy, Harry Arthur, and probably missing one. But how are you feeling about that position? Do you think Josh Cullen is too inexperienced to maybe start in Serbia?
Well, I don't think he's too inexperienced. I think it's a tough situation for all of them. Like my top three would be Knight, Malumbi, and Cullen, and they're all inexperienced, really, to be honest. You know, they'd be the three lads I'd be looking at to go in there, because I want them to play a 5-3-2, and I think when you play that, you need two lads in the midfield who are going to be running around constantly, getting stuck in, winning balls back and going forward, box to box type players. And I think Knight and Malumbi are those two players, and it could work well having Horahan in front of them, give him a bit of a free roll to make passes, etc. as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a good debate, but I think it's a tough one to call because you don't know what Stephen's going to do. Looking at it realistically, he'd probably stick with Hendrick and Horahan in there anyway. I just think that's the way it's going to be. I think a lot of international managers like having experience in there constantly. It's not what I'd go for, but you never know. I think Cullen would be good. Like that man of the match game, whoever mentioned that, I think that was Bulgaria, was it? In the French? Yeah, he was brilliant that night. I mean, listen, why not? And he's playing for Anderlecht. He's playing away from, obviously, we obviously can't watch it at the minute, but it seems like he's doing very well from what's being fed back to us. So why not? But personally, for me, I'd want all action midfielders in there. So I'd be going for Knight, Malumbi, and then obviously Horahan ahead of them with the form he's in at the minute. But obviously, we're still a month away. We don't know what injuries are going to come in. We don't know this. We don't know that. So you don't know what situation it's going to be like. The only issue I have with James McCarthy is that, and I know it's not his fault, but you can see him picking up an injury and missing out. And that's the only issue with him. And that's frustrating for him and it's frustrating for us as well, because we know he's well capable. You know yourself from playing for Everton. So, yeah, for me, I think it's just those three lads, they'd be who I'd want to be starting in there at the minute.
One point actually on the... Yeah, we haven't been able to see Josh Cullen, as you say, unless we watch streams. I believe ESPN in the States have done a deal for the Belgian league. So that's going to be on from next week. And that should be possible to pick up for people who have, well, I suppose Fire Sticks, IPTV or whatever else. But anyway, maybe we shouldn't be talking about those things, but certainly with ESPN available with English commentary, albeit American English commentary, the Belgian league will become, I imagine, more accessible to Irish fans. So we must keep an eye out. I certainly would like to keep an eye out and watch an Anderlecht game, and I'll try and get an eye on the schedule and see what games they're showing. But they're going to be showing Belgian football on ESPN for at least, I think it's the rest of the year, if not the... anyway, I saw just the other day, was it yesterday, that they'd actually signed that deal. So it could give us a better chance to keep an eye on Josh Cullen.
I'm just looking at the stats here. He played 14 games, started 11 minutes per game, 73, 2 yellow cards. Obviously, he's not the type of player who's going to be, running up the pitch and scoring goals and stuff like that. He's going to be more of a defensive midfielder. So his average rating is kind of 7.3. So fair play to him. Oh yeah, this thing keeps popping up as well. This is like the most stupid thing going. This the whole thing about David McGoldrick and the fact that he's put Ireland back in his bio, or if he even took Ireland out of his bio in the first place. People are losing their minds over it. Neil O'Riordan came out and said that he hasn't even spoken, or he hasn't made contact with Stephen Kenny or anything like that. He's deleted the retirement post or whatever. I don't know. I think it's a bit silly to be losing the minds over it. Like, he's come out and said it. If he changes his mind, happy days. But to be making little, or jumping to conclusions over little silly things like the fact that he put Ireland in his bio. I'm pretty sure he had that in his bio beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I think it's people. Sorry, Gary. I think it's people just kind of clutching at straws. Obviously, he's been in good form this year. Sheffield United are playing well at the minute in the cup quarter-finals as well. Probably still inevitable that they're going to go down, but he's played very well, and I think it's just people clutching at straws. Obviously, it's a small thing. I mean, I'm sure he's very proud of that, of his time playing for us as well. Obviously, the celebration he got for the goal he scored against the Swiss was one of the best in the last while. Anyway, so look. I mean, it's people just clutching at straws. We can only hope. It'd be nice to have him back in the squad, but there's other lads there as well, and it's a new era. And if he doesn't come back, we just have to move on.
Yeah, Gary, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before, Paul. I'd certainly like to see him come back. I know when he retired, it was to prolong his Premier League career. And despite Sheffield United have done incredibly well, they're in the quarterfinals of the Cup, and who knows, they're one step away from a Wembley semi-final. But it does look like they're going down. I mean, even Burnley's win today puts another nail in their coffin. They're already, 4 points behind Fulham, who are 10, 11 points down on Newcastle. So for Sheffield United to stay up now would really require a miracle. He's still young. He is the best attacking player available to us. And so look, I suppose people are hoping against hope that he might change his mind. Neil O'Riordan, I'm sure he's right in saying that he hasn't made contact with Stephen, but maybe Stephen could make contact, just give him a call and one last call and say, look, is there any chance, Didsy, we really could do with you in Belgrade? And maybe even just make yourself available for the crucial games, just even the Serbia and Portugal games, and maybe take it from there. I don't know. I'd like to see him back. I think he's still young. He's still so much to offer. And another thing with his goals this season, he scored so many goals against the top six clubs. I mean, he scored against Spurs, Chelsea, Man United. Who else? He's been in the bigger games against them.
I think. Sorry, Gary. I think he scored at the Emirates.
Yeah, no, I think he could have. Yeah, I was just struggling. I think he scored maybe against 5 of them. And it's just in those...
the top 6, Paul.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought you said...
I mean the top 6. No, I do mean that. I mean the traditional top 6. I do. I did include Arsenal in that, not Everton, but what you'd consider the top 6 in. I know the table's a bit very different at the moment, and Everton are doing incredibly well. But your traditional top 6, which would be Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham.
When was the last time Arsenal were in the top 6?
Okay.
I think 2017. Oh no! 2019. 2019. They just missed out on top 4.
Okay, but anyway, maybe the league table hasn't.
Martinez again.
Okay, the league table hasn't reflected that for a while. But having said that, it's Didsy has scored against these teams, and look, I'd certainly like to have him available in Belgrade, and I would hope Stephen would make one last phone call and just have a chat and say, any chance you could just make yourself available for Serbia and Portugal games, and take it from there. If he says no, you got to respect the guy's choices and appreciate what he's done for us. And that goal against Switzerland and his just overall contribution, not just his goal, but his overall contribution in the green shirt will be remembered. But I just hope he'd reconsider.
Yeah, I was only joking there about that as well, by the way. There's a couple of comments coming in there. Adam Redmond says, came for that beauty in the top left. What's up, Adam? Hope you're giving some more of them anti-maskers stick. Dermot Brady says, what's up, Paul? All right there, mate. But there was one question there. Just going to split us up there for a sec. So, Sean says, will Stevens be back in time for the Serbia game? Desperately needed. Manning too inexperienced to be thrown in. Now, Greg Cunningham scored for Preston last night and looked really good. If he could get himself a run of games without injury, I think he could be in contention and could possibly play at left back ahead of, say, Ryan Manning, who is a little bit inexperienced. I know he did play the game against Bulgaria in the Nations League, but unlike Josh Cullen, I think Manning is much more inexperienced, and I think Greg Cunningham has been in and around squads, maybe not played as much just through injury, but you could see that he's a really good player. Preston have re-signed him on loan. I'm not sure who he's on loan from. I think it's Cardiff. Cardiff had signed him when they went up to the Premier League originally, so like he does have quality and stuff like that. It's just I think a matter of a run of games and stuff like that. The goal he scored last night was set up from right back to left back. It was Adam Brown whipped it across, and one touch strike. It was a beautiful goal actually. But what do you kind of think there in regards to the left back position? Obviously, if Enda Stevens is fit, he's going to have to be the first choice. He's been excellent since he came in. I don't think he's really let the country down at all. But he doesn't seem to be playing at the moment through injury or something like that. I think Gary Wheat spoke about him the other night saying, I think he was doubtful. So he's probably on the road to recovery back now soon.
Yeah, I'm hoping he'll be back very soon. Yeah, we did talk about him, and I've been checking in the app, and he's actually been doubtful for the last 3 Sheffield United games. So that gives me great hope that he'll certainly be back from injury well before the Serbia match. Possibly, I think they're playing tomorrow. I can't remember who they're playing now. But I thought it popped up on my screen actually recently that they're playing tomorrow anyway. But
I think they're playing West Ham on Monday, I think it is.
Oh, is it Monday? Okay. Maybe it is Monday. But anyway, hopefully he'll be back. The only concern you have is someone who's been out injured for a while. Even when they come back, they can often just pick up another injury. So the fact that he hasn't played much recently, it has to be a concern that he may not be available for Belgrade. But fingers crossed he will be. I would certainly expect to see him back well before Belgrade and hopefully get a run of games. Yeah, Greg Cunningham is a great shout. He's someone, it must be nearly 10 years ago now, I'm trying to remember. He looked a real talent as a young player and looked like he was one that was going to be there for the future. And unfortunately, he's picked up so many. He's been really unfortunate, a run of injuries. And to be honest, I'd nearly forgotten about him recently. And what a goal on Friday night. A great ball from Alan Brown as well. And if he can get a run of games with Preston in the Championship, he may well force his way into Stephen Kenny's squad. I agree with Ryan Manning being a bit inexperienced, but he's probably still ahead of Greg at the moment. But I wonder if Enda Stevens is not available, even though it may not have worked very well, will we see Seamus Coleman maybe at right back and Matt Doherty at left back in Belgrade if it comes to that, if Enda Stevens is not available, rather than throw Ryan Manning or Greg Cunningham in there. But I'm really hopeful that Enda Stevens will be back.
Yeah, Paul, what's your take on it?
Yeah, well, I think those are the two main options to come in, Manning and Cunningham. Obviously, Cunningham's just gone there. He done well last night, got a goal himself. It's a tough one to call. Maybe the most realistic one is maybe Matt Doherty to go across to the other side, or Seamus Coleman to go across to the other side, fill in, and then one of the other play it on the other side. Realistically, I think on the left side you're better off having a left-footed player. But look, it's still a month away. We don't know. There's a lot of games coming up, and I'm sure Enda will be buzzing to get back in because he knows that position is his if he's fit.
Yeah. Look, it's just gonna be a matter of waiting and seeing. Again, we're kind of talking about this thing 6 weeks out. People are constantly asking about Jack Burnham, why he's not in the Apoel squad. He rang me the other day when the Apoel jersey came. He's carrying a knock with his back, and he'll be back in a couple of weeks. So people, just please stop worrying about him. He's settling in. His girlfriend.
Jack actually. Jack is the creative midfield player that if Jack can get himself fit and get a regular run of games at Apoel, he is the ideal creative midfield player that can create chances and create goals. It's exactly what we are lacking, and so he is a potential for that kind of number 10 role in the future. But so hopefully
I don't think he'll be fit for the in time. I hope he is, but I don't think he will be.
No, I agree. I think Belgrade, Luxembourg, Qatar will probably come a little bit too soon. He probably won't get the game time. It sounds like that he is going to take time, but just for the future and for that role, if he can get some time, play at a high level, at a regular play week in, week out, then he has the potential to be the number 10 or the creative midfielder that Stephen and we need.
Yeah, Paul, have you had to add on that?
Yeah, well, I think, if he gets a good run of games, like you've said, he'll definitely come into the squad anyway. Whether he'll get ahead of the lads playing in England or not is another story. I've no problem with it. If he's in form, I think he should be playing. But yeah, it's a tough one. And I mean, he's gone over there to a situation where they're struggling, and if he doesn't come in and make an instant impact, it's going to be changed pretty quickly again. So it's a tough one for him. Obviously, he is carrying a knock now, so he's not in the squad. So, yeah, I mean, I think if he's fit and he's playing well, he's in that 23-man squad. If he's not, he's not. Simple as. I'd like to see him in. I think he's the most similar to the last one we've had, Wes Hoolahan. But look, you never know. You never know. There's still a month away.
Longer,
more than a month. Yeah, true. Don't know what day.
If he came back
5 weeks from Wednesday.
Yeah, if he came back and had a good run in the team or whatever, then you would have to say, yeah, get him in there. He's exactly the type of player we need to come on and change a game, or maybe potentially start the game to open up a defence, whatever way Stephen decides that he's gonna go against the teams that we're playing against. But it's all speculation right now for everything, for every position. I think the worrying thing for us is no one's really playing at a very high level consistently week in, week out, other than maybe Jason Knight. I struggle to think of anyone off the top of my head and maybe Didsey, who, as we spoke about, we don't know whether he's going to come out of retirement or not. So even though John Egan's been playing quite well, they're still bottom of the league. So you couldn't say he's playing brilliantly week in, week out.
Kieran Clark is playing pretty well for Newcastle as well. I think he's doing well.
Where are they in the league as well? Do you know what I mean? So these are constantly playing in teams that are getting beaten a lot of the times. It's not going to be good for their confidence,
So, well, at least it's still in the Premier League, so it's still doing reasonable. Yeah, but no, it has to be a concern. I mean, we don't have, certainly if you're talking the mid to the top half of the Premier League, we've nobody that's standing out. I mean, the obvious ones would be the likes of Matt Doherty, Seamus Coleman, but yeah, we're not.
They're not even really playing.
No, well, that's it. Yeah, and they're not, and they're certainly not playing on a regular basis, and not playing really well when they get the chance. And obviously, Sheffield United have been bottom of the Premier League when last season they had been doing so well and up near the top. So yeah, it is a concern for the World Cup qualifiers.
Also, you got Shane Duffy at Celtic, who, every week someone's coming out and saying how bad he's playing and stuff like that. I don't actually think he's been playing as bad as people are making out. We've spoken about that in previous videos. But for me, like, John Egan would be my first starter ahead of any other centre back. So it's kind of whatever he puts in beside him, whether it's Dara O'Shea, whether it's Shane Duffy, whether it's Kieran Clark, Kevin Long, whoever it may be. But it's just, yeah, it's when you look at our squad at the moment, and just so many players that aren't playing. I admire what Howrahan did, going out on loan to just get game time. Some of the rest of them are mainstays at their club and stuff like that. Now I know Kieran Clark's a bit of a backup at the moment, but he played himself into a good bit of form that I think he got a new contract out of it. Yeah, he did get a new contract out of it, so he got a contract extension out of that. I think Shane Long maybe moved to Bournemouth to get some game time. That could be potentially good in a couple of weeks, depending on how things go. So yeah, but as far as the defensive options, it's a bit bleak right now. A lot of our defence and our goalkeeper aren't playing, so it's a bit of a worry for me.
I'm less worried about the defence, Paul. Even though Kieran Clark, he probably is a regular with Newcastle if he just got a knock and lost his place through injury, and I think we probably will see him get plenty of game time in the next few weeks, because he had been playing really well. Darragh O'Shea had been playing really well, maybe just lost a little bit of form recently. It'll be interesting to see if he gets game time the next few weeks under Sam Allardyce. Even though Matt Doherty or Seamus Coleman haven't had a huge amount of game time, I still wouldn't be too concerned with throwing one or both of them in. I have concerns about Shane Duffy. I don't think he probably will start in Belgrade. But if you're talking the likes of Seamus Coleman, Matt Doherty, John Egan, Kieran Clark, hopefully Enda Stevens back, but if not, maybe one of the others moving over. Either of our goalkeepers, whether it's Caoimhín Kelleher or Darren Randolph, I'm actually not too concerned defensively for Belgrade. It's probably more further up the pitch. It's more our attacking options. Obviously, we'll get Aaron Connolly on the pitch, but the makeup of our front three, it doesn't seem to be a lot of creativity, a lot of goals in it. And that's where my worry would be for next month. It's more further forward than actually at the back.
Paulito.
Yeah, well, I think obviously we always have a good goalkeeper. We're solid. Back line is very good as well. It's unfortunate. You look at Matt Doherty, even today, he was behind your man Tanganga. I mean, listen, I know I'm not a big fan of Spurs, but I mean, surely Matt Doherty should be getting ahead of him, realistically. I've seen him a couple of times and he's no use at all. But obviously Mourinho doesn't fancy him. That's what he does to players who he doesn't fancy, and that's unfortunate. What Gary said is right. I'd still probably be okay with him coming in. Same with James Coleman. But you see Duffy, I mean, listen, the confidence is very low. Obviously, I want Shane Duffy in the side. He's probably one of our best chances of a goal as well as anything. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, I think if you had a back five, Duffy could probably get away with being in poor form because he'd have lads covering him and all as well. You could put him inside, maybe have Doherty on the right, Coleman. Even put Coleman into centre half as a 3 if you wanted. Darragh O'Shea's there as well. Kieran Clark has had a good season. Enda Stevens at left back as well. I mean, I never really worry about it, but like, we're not going to go and concede 5 or 6 away in Serbia. I wouldn't worry too much about that. But see, it's tough as well because it's still 5 weeks away, as we just said. We don't know what's going to happen. And I know I keep saying that, I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's the truth. So many things can happen in those 2 weeks. European football's coming back. There's more cup competitions as well. There's still lads involved in that. You don't know what's going to happen. But personally, for me, I think a back five would work, and I'm going to say that until it actually happens.
We've said that before. I said I would like to see that maybe a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, whatever way you want to look at it, with Matt Doherty on one side and Stevens on the other, which is the kind of positions that they play at did play at their clubs, because Matt Doherty just doesn't really play. I know he played against Everton the other night, and Seamus Coleman came on and played right wing the other night and done quite well. He just kind of put himself about. He didn't do anything amazing, but he was just energetic, and he got about the pitch and stuff like that. He looked quite fit, to be fair to him. So hopefully he can, kick on a little bit. I'd say he'll probably play tomorrow against Fulham. So yeah, it'd be good to see him getting a bit of a run now in the lead up to those games, as you say. It's a good couple of weeks away now. Aidan O'Brien asks, is there any word on if Damien Duff's coaching position will be filled soon? I would have thought that would have been by now. I haven't heard a thing, and I struggle to think who it could be. But I think that the biggest problem is the person who leaked out the video. I think that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to happen as soon as they meet up, because Conor Howard addressed it on Off the Ball the other night. It was a good interview, and he'd said that they haven't seen each other since then, so it all came out after that camp. So they haven't even seen each other to kind of figure out who it may have been or whatever. So I think if it hadn't been for that person, Damien Duff would probably still be there. Then the FAI had basically held an investigation over it, and Damien Duff was furious about it because he felt there was no need for an investigation. there's an alleged, well, I would say argument. I wouldn't say bust up, but I would say an alleged argument between Alan Kelly and Damien Duff. Again, don't know the details behind that, but I think obviously the two of them have left now. But I think with Duff leaving, if you speak to any of the players or whatever, they're quite disheartened. Howard had nothing but good things to say about him. Said how good he was with the players and stuff like that. His experience and what he's done in the game was obviously good for them to learn off. So there were so much things that Damien Duff had brought to the team as well. And Howard had said himself there was nothing in the video that, you know, when they were coming away or whatever, or when lads got into groups or whatever, which was normally the case when they're out of meetings or whatever, like nobody had thought anything strange of the situation. So it's just whoever did that as basically, and Stephen Kenny had addressed it himself, didn't really have the team's best interest at heart, whoever it is or whoever it was. So you're asking someone to come into that environment who may always be like the wife who left you, for example. Do you know what I mean? I get the impression that whoever comes in might be looking, going, oh well, I'm never going to live up to what Duff thinks of me or whatever. But I thought John O'Shea would have been a good replacement, but Jim Crawford's kind of squashed that. I look around, I don't really know anyone else. They could have got Robbie Keane in, but there's rumours that him and Stephen Kenny don't get on or something. So I don't know. Throw some names at me and I'll discuss. But what do you think, Gary?
Yeah, it's Damien Duff and Alan Kelly are certainly a loss. Duff in particular, because he was the link, and it's an important position in any squad. It's the link between the manager and the players. And also Damien Duff is a real student of the game, he works really hard. He's a huge interest in tactics and the way the game has been played and different systems, etc. So he is going to be a big loss for Stephen, and it is unfortunate that he's gone. Dean Kiley's come in I think he's going to replace Alan Kelly, coming in as the goalkeeping coach. I think can share his duties with Crystal Palace. So I think that'll be fine. He was a fine keeper for us as well. Quite underrated actually in his day. But yeah, the replacement, it is going to be a tough choice, and it will be interesting. Yeah, you mentioned John O'Shea and Paul, and it does seem to be he was probably the obvious candidate when it was said, but it's not going to happen. I don't know if there's any falling out or anything between Stephen and Robbie Keane. I just think they're just maybe have different philosophies on the way the game is going to be played. It would solve a problem for the FAI, given that Robbie's still on the payroll, but it looks like that he's not going to be the option. So I don't know who Stephen is looking at. I suppose we're all assuming it would be a former international, probably someone from the recent past, but who knows? He could go for anyone. Would he go back to somebody like Vinnie Perth, who he had such a great relationship with in the League of Ireland? I don't know, but time will tell. It's. I haven't heard actually any even rumours at this stage as to who it could be, but I imagine somebody will get appointed in the next couple of weeks.
Paul, Tierney, what's your take on the whole situation?
I just think it's a bit of a disaster, to be honest. Like, this whole leaking, like, it was. There's nothing serious about it. Like, it's, as Duffer has said already, it's just a video. Like, come on, let's get on and get over it. Like, you know, for someone to come in, I mean, I don't know. I have absolutely no clue. Like, you don't know. Like, obviously Robbie Keane's just gone off when Mick McCarthy left. I mean, as Gary said, that would be an easy option. But if they don't get on, or they don't have the same philosophy, it's not going to happen. Couldn't tell you. I'm sure something will be announced before March anyway, or even in early March before the internationals, but God knows. I mean, it's just such a stupid situation, and that's what annoys the fans as well. Things like this come out, and leaks in the FAI and stuff like that. It's just silly carry on.
Yeah, well, it disrupts everything. It disrupts the team, the fan, or the team. And so I imagine when Stephen got the news, he was just like, well, what do I do now, type of thing, you know. So it's a bit frustrating in that sense. But I just kind of struggle to think who they might get in. It might be a case of getting Vinny Perth in there on a temporary basis or whatever, because I know he told him originally he didn't tell him that he didn't want him, but Vinny Perth had said on off the ball that he told me he wouldn't be going to the national team with him. So I don't know what that's all about.
Well, Vinny was manager at Dundalk at the time, and the FAI had already gone to Dundalk and taken their manager. So I think it would have looked really bad if Vinny Perth had gone with Stephen at that point. You know, you would have been not only just taking the Dundalk manager and then taking his replacement. So I can kind of understand why Vinny wouldn't have gone, or just couldn't even be allowed to go with Stephen the first time. But now that Vinny Perth is available, and it's a possibility. I don't know. It's or does he want to? I mean, obviously the players are not going to know who Vinny Perth is, so maybe he might go for someone like John O'Shea. I don't know. That obviously that just a recent international who would be very well known to everybody else. But I think John O'Shea has been ruled out in what's been said. So, but somebody like that. But who knows? Maybe we'll get a surprise announcement.
But I think, you know the way you say that, like, I don't think the players would know who he is or anything like that. But, like, that might have been relevant 10 years ago or longer than that, when we had players that were playing for the absolute best teams in the Premier League and playing European football and stuff like that. Nowadays, you know, how many of our players are at top clubs, so they can't really, like, I'm not saying this in a slagging way, but they can't really look down on people in terms of what they've done in the game. The likes of a Vinny Perth or whatever. Aidan has just said in the comments there, Mark Kennedy had been touted, former Manchester City and Ipswich academy coach. So, you know, I don't really buy that. Again, it was the same thing people said about Stephen Kenny, and look, you speak to any of the players, they all seem to be really excited about what Stephen's brought to the team, although they haven't had the best of fortunes as of yet. But the way that they've kind of tried to play, I don't think if you actually go back and look at the games that we played and you assess the whole performance and not the scoreline, I don't think Ireland have actually played that badly, just haven't scored goals. And largely, a lot of the games, you know, other than the England game, a lot of the time we haven't had our best team. I'm not saying we had our best team for England, but we did get hammered in that game. But the other games we didn't. And, you know, I actually thought we played decent football at times. It was just maybe a lack of urgency in our play or something like that. Maybe that would probably be the only complaint, and a lack of goals. But I think they've all tried to adapt quite well to Stephen's philosophy and stuff like that. So for people to say, oh, he's only a League of Ireland manager, they're not going to listen to him. Again, that might have been the case when we had Roy Keane, Robbie Keane, these types of players, Damien Duff even as a player. That might have been relevant then, but I don't think it's relevant now. I think I just don't see it. I actually, from dealing with a lot of the players in internationals, they're quite humble, they're quite nice lads. You know, despite what people want to say, they are all fairly decent guys. And I would say they'd be pretty much open to anything. And I think anyone who's probably worked with any of them will probably say the same as well.
Yeah, it's not so much, Paul, I'd be saying they wouldn't respect Vinny Perth, but it's more to be that link man. It would be, I think, to be better if it would be somebody they'd know, because to try and build a rapport between the players and to be their conduit to the manager, that could be more difficult. But certainly Stephen has worked with Vinny for so many years, and Vinny was he's number two, so he may well go to Vinny Perth, and that he may well become the option. I don't know. I mean, it's I don't think it's more that the squad wouldn't have respect for him or anything, or and I'm sure he'd be well capable of doing the job. It's just the players wouldn't really know him, and they may take time to get to know him, and then he may not be, just build up the morale, etc., that someone like Damien Duff would have done. And so I don't know. It's very hard to guess what Stephen's thinking, or to see who he's going to go for. We should know fairly soon, because I imagine it'll be announced well in advance of the squad being announced for Serbia and, well, Serbia, Luxembourg and Qatar.
Paul, have you anything to add on that?
I mean, I've seen a couple of comments in there. Like the Lee Carsley one, that could be a good one. He's done very well the last while. I mean, listen, you don't know. You don't know. Could be anyone. Could be anyone. That's the thing. Usually the FAI shock us with loads of things, so this will probably shock us as well, no doubt.
But why should we go for Lee Carsley? Like, what's he done? He's done good things with England's underage. Why would he leave that to come and be a
I don't know. Maybe because he played for us, that could be an attraction. Like, you don't know what the FAI are thinking. I'm just saying because, like, I mean, it's a tough one. Like, international just always seems a tough one to get someone in. You always want the former player, but how qualified are these former players? That's the issue, and I don't know. It's just a desperate situation altogether. It's annoying that we're even talking about it. But look, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Well, I think with Carsley, he went to the FAI before anyway and said that he wanted to be. He offered his services himself in Kilban, and no one ever got back to them. So they kind of held that, I suppose, bit of resentment. And
that's fair enough. Then that's fair enough.
I think Kilban took a career in media, and Carsley's gone to be on England's books.
He's very highly regarded, I believe, in the England setup. So I don't know if it would be possible to get him out of that now. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know if any approaches have been made.
Yeah, he's a nice guy as well. I did an interview with him at an Everton Q&A thing that he came over for. He's a nice guy, but he did say that. And yeah, he was interesting, to say the least. He just looks mad angry, even though he was taking the piss out of me quite a bit. But he was sound like he was doing it in a nice way. But it's a shame that probably someone like Andy Reid has gone and taken up the under-23 job at Nottingham Forest, because he probably would have been a good person to get in for the job. He'd been working with the under-18s. He kind of would have known the way they play, the way up and stuff. So he would have been probably a good person to have had he not taken up the Nottingham Forest, under-23 job.
Yeah, it probably would have been a nice one to get in. But again, Forest is obviously a club close to his heart as well. So that would obviously be one he'd want to go to when they came calling as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think just wait and see, really. See, the game is just over here. It's finished scoreless. Not a lot to report. Brighton probably on top, but couldn't make the breakthrough. I see they're up to 15th in the table on 26 points and just 1 point behind Wolves now. Looking pretty comfortable. That's comfortable mid-table. And ahead of Burnley, Paul, so maybe, just albeit on goal difference, so if you're talking Burnley for Europe, why not Graham Potter's Brighton for Europe as well?
Everyone's going for Europe. It's great. It's an all-inclusive Premier League.
The game just ended there for me now. Absolute shite game that was.
Martinez was brilliant again, though. I mean, like, he made a couple of really good saves in that game. Probably actually got Villa the point in the end. And again, I'm sick.
And he's wearing short sleeve as well. Fair play to him.
Yeah.
Who knows? Even Arsenal could sneak into Europe as well. They're still
if he was playing for Arsenal,
if he got back into the top six, maybe.
Yeah. If he was playing for Arsenal, he wouldn't be wearing them short sleeves in this cold weather. That doesn't happen at a club like us,
Bernd Leno always wears short sleeves.
Does he?
Well, top.
I need to watch Arsenal more. That's what I need to do, or less.
Top 7 will probably get Europe anyway, assuming the FA Cup is won by one of the teams in the top 6. And it's probably a good shout that Man City are probably going to win that as well. So 7th place, I think, is a very realistic target. But currently in 7th place are Everton, who, of course, could win the FA Cup still, Paul. So I'm not going to totally rule that out. But Villa are just a point behind Everton. So Everton are hanging on to the 7th spot with a couple of games in hand as well. So could well finish a lot higher. Well, actually, Everton have 2 games in hand on 4th place Liverpool and are 3 points behind. So, yeah, maybe it shouldn't be talking about top 6 or 7 for Everton. You never know. Top 4, is that on?
Nah. We haven't been that good, Gary. Everybody thinks that Everton have had this brilliant season. We haven't been that good. Look at the games we lost. We lost against Leeds. We've lost against Villa. We lost against Newcastle only a few weeks ago. We lost against Burnley not that long ago as well. We lost against crap teams, and then we go and put out performances when we have to defend against teams and then catch teams on the counter-attack, like we did against Spurs the other night. Like we were 1-0 down, then it was 3-1. Like we're just a bit of a mad team at the moment, and it's just the way, like Ancelotti has just managed to get a tune out of some players. You know, he's played the likes of Ben Godfrey, who's been an absolute revelation this season. I can't believe I forgot him when I was speaking about signing the season. It just came back to me there. He's been absolutely outstanding. He's played left back, he's played centre back, he's played right back, and he's played all the positions well. When Luca Dean went out of the team, we were really struggling to kind of figure out where we win games, and he would be one of our main attacking outlets. And Godfrey came in, he shored things up at left back. Richarlison was probably a little bit frustrated because he didn't have someone who was a natural fullback getting forward beyond him, and that's probably why he had poor form. But Everton were winning games that way and stuff like that, just purely defending, and then catching teams on the counter-attack, getting that one goal, and then just holding on. Like we held on against, I think Arsenal there was a game we beat Arsenal, and I think Saka nearly scored in the last seconds of the game. We were really hanging on there. We beat Chelsea, beat Leicester. So we've beaten big teams.
Beat Spurs the opening game of the season. So, you know, there have been some great results as well as some... I don't think... The one thing I'll say, Paul, you're probably right, Everton haven't looked like a top four club, but the only club that's really, really impressed, if you're looking at the whole season, are probably Manchester City.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I'd agree.
everybody else has been... Man United have looked really bad at times. Okay, Leicester have probably done really well, actually. Probably the best of the rest. Everyone else, Liverpool have looked appalling. Chelsea have been bad for ages. Tottenham have been bad. Arsenal are struggling.
I'll make one point on Man United, right? Arsenal took 4 points off them. That's Man United's season right there.
Okay.
But I think with Liverpool, obviously, the fact that they've had injuries, Joe Gomez, Van Dijk, and I think Matip's been in and out, so they've had to be forced to juggle the team around. So I think people forget that. So they wouldn't have had maybe their first choice. I know all teams get injuries, but they've had like real key injuries that have probably stopped them from being probably up. They've done well to kind of be where they are, I think. But you know, if Everton pipped them to the top four, I'd be quite happy, and it would be a good season. But I think Ancelotti needs one more window in the summer to bring in more of his players and get rid of a lot of dead wood that he still has there. There's definitely players that he just doesn't fancy, and he got rid of a lot of them in the January transfer window. So I think in the summer, when he can get rid of players, get rid of wages off the books and bring in his own players, I think you'll see a much better Everton side next season and a much more consistent side, you know, going out and actually putting it up to bigger and better teams. I've been surprised at how well the mentality shift has been, but that's because he's brought in the likes of James, and he's brought in the likes of Alan and Decore and these types of players who he's worked with. He's worked with Alan and James before. He brought in Robin Olsen as well, who's been good. I know he made that slip mistake against Man United, but I mean, he just slipped. So yeah, I think and if you look at the difference with Carlo, and you've got Duncan Ferguson going wild on the sideline, and then you just see Carlo there with a cup of coffee, just casually, just going, you know, telling everyone to calm down. So I think he's been there, he's seen it, he's done it and won it all. That stuff like that doesn't faze him, and he's the calmest person in the room, and that's kind of what he's like as well. I've read his book there, Quiet Leadership and stuff like that, and that's kind of what he's all about. It's you don't have to be screaming and demanding at players. He can be like that when he needs to be, and I love when he gets a bit, you know, aggro at players and starts screaming at people. I love when I see that bit of passion about him, but he's generally very cool, and I think that kind of rubs off on the players. And the thing is, the players trust him. He's got a tune out of Tom Davis, who was woeful last season. He's been brilliant in the last couple of weeks. Ben Godfrey, Mason Holgate, Michael Keane, Yerry Mina looked totally rejuvenated. Pickford looked good for a while there till he made that mistake against Leicester. So yeah, I think you've seen a whole mentality shift of a whole club thanks to getting a absolutely world-class manager in Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah, definitely, I'd agree with you. Maybe the goalkeeper situation as well is another one he's probably looking to address. I mean, obviously,
summer,
yeah. I mean, Pickford is woeful. Like, that's it. That's it. And then I don't know enough about Olsen. I've only seen him a couple of times, so maybe he might be the answer. I don't know. But again, there's better goalkeepers out there that Everton could probably get.
Yeah, I don't know too many good goalkeepers out there at the moment, actually, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I trust in Carlo and who they recruit Marcel Brands as well. So look, we'll see what they do. But you need a world class right back and a world class goalkeeper and maybe another striker, and could really kick on. Maybe a right winger too. So those positions need to be filled. Maybe one more midfielder as well. But I think Jean-Philippe Gbamin is coming back from injury after about 2 years out since he's been bought, and he's just stealing a living right now. So if he comes back, he'd be like a new signing, literally. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens. But I think we'll leave it on that note anyway. Huge thanks to everyone who's joined us in the comments. If you have anything else to add, feel free before we go off.
No, nothing. Good to see you again, lads. Good chat as well. And I need to watch Arsenal more. That's what I've learned from this.
Yeah, thanks for all the comments and everything, lads. And yeah, really enjoyed it as well. And talk to you soon. Cheers.
Paul Tierney just said Nick Pope as we were going off. We'll discuss it again. We'll have more watch-alongs probably during the week or something like that. So we'll chat to you all again. Huge thanks to everyone who joined in. Don't forget to give the video a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you're a returning watcher and you haven't subscribed yet. It helps the channel grow as well if you could drop a like. Thanks very much, guys, and take care of yourselves. We'll speak to you all soon. Take care.